radio this beautiful and wonderful Monday afternoon. It's afternoon business show with Semosina Chi and Eze this beautiful Monday afternoon. And right about now, we will be entering into the segment online business. It's online business segment, and we will be discussing a topic guide to hiring a social media manager. Guide to hiring a social media manager. What are the things that you need to look out for when you want to hire a social media management manager? All right, so let's start by telling the story of John, an undergraduate full-time student at the University of Ibadan. He has an online shoe store and struggles with getting engagement and putting out great content required to scale his business. From numerous group work to assignments and academic projects, he struggles with making sure that his business has a stable online presence, which eventually led to the crash of his business, which once had a promising future. He sought advice on how to revive his business, and he was advised to hire a social media manager. But due to inadequate know how on what it takes to hire a social media manager, his effort proved abortive. Before we go further into this discussion, I have with me in the studio to discuss this guide on to hiring a social media manager, Eze, and we are here together to run this online business segment.
All right, it's a pleasure, to join this afternoon to talk about issues surrounding social media and a manager to do that. I think it's a nice one to talk about. Good afternoon to you listening to us this afternoon.
All right, good afternoon. Okay, so let's move on. For those of you who are watching us, you would have seen Eze in the studio, and if you're just joining us or you are listening via the mobile app, voice you just heard is the voice of the professor of technology, Eze. Okay, so moving on to the issue at hand, social media is an important marketing tool for small businesses, but many organizations find it difficult to manage their social media strategies on their own. Social media marketing has grown from a hobby to a full blown industry, and small businesses even find themselves in need of a dedicated professional to handle the high demands of social media. Before bringing someone to your team for this role, it is very important to understand what a social media manager does, what to look for in a social media manager, and how much you should pay them. I'm going to hand over to Eze, who will tell us the responsibilities and the duties of a social media manager.
All right, the responsibilities of a social media manager vary by company, though their duties are often more complicated and in depth than many people realize. You might be inclined to think that overseeing a business's social media presence is no different from managing your personal profiles, but it's far more complex and challenging. Yes, because social media managers must align their marketing efforts with their overall business plan, create a voice unique for your business, and manage multiple profiles at once. There are many other responsibilities definitely that we'll talk about this afternoon. But like I said before, it's important to understand that your managing your personal profile is different from managing a company's profile.
Exactly.
Managing your profile, yes, you might be careful on what you post and say. I understand, but it's different from that of a company. One stupid thing you might post on a company's page might bring down that company. But you, who cares? Who
Anything
cares?
goes.
Anything goes. You can bounce back. Sometimes there are things you post and people will look at it and move on. But when a company posts and people will try to look at your content, the quality it has and all those stuffs you get. But personal is personal. You know, personal is personal. When you call it personal, it's personal, and that's just it. It's personal is that it's personal. hmm So we need to get it right. And when you get that right, that helps you now understand why you need a social media manager, because the social media manager will understand the ethics involved in all of this. He understands the do's and the don'ts of the game. We'll still talk about some other responsibilities as we move on this afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much, Eze, for that introduction to the responsibilities of a social media manager. We would be entering into a detailed conversation on the responsibilities of a social media manager. And the first one we want to talk about is that a social media manager implements a marketing plan. Every brand has a marketing plan, and who is responsible for implementation of a marketing plan is the social media manager. This is the first task of a social media manager, implementing a marketing plan. And if it's a social media manager that has that job, and they will often undertake as it defines the scope of the rest of their work. A marketing plan addresses how each one of a company's social channels will be used, the company's goal for each social network, and the types of campaign that will run on it. All right, so a social media manager's duty is to implement the marketing plans of a company on all social channels. If you are a business owner and you need your presence to be well felt on all social media platforms, and we have the major popular ones: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. If you need your company's marketing to be well effective, you need somebody to be in charge of it, and it's the responsibility of the social media manager to do that. Because they have studied the social media networks, and they know which particular medium is good for which particular plan. They know the kind of campaigns that each run. You don't expect that somebody will go and be looking for how to post pictures on YouTube. It's not a channel for images. Okay, so if you don't have if a social media manager must know how to implement plans. If you have video ads, the social media manager knows, oh, okay, these are the tools that we can use to push videos. He knows the ones that we can use to push images. He knows the ones that you can use to push audio voices alone. All right, so the first duty, and the major duty of a social media manager, once again, is to implement a market plan for the brand.
All right. The next responsibility you need to look out for. Remember, we are talking about things you need to consider when hiring a social media manager, and that is why we are letting you know the responsibilities of a social media manager, so that by the time you get one, you know that these are the responsibilities. And if the person is not living up to his expectation, then you can call the person to a round table discussion, and talk about the way forward. So Samu has mentioned the first one. The second responsibility of a social media manager is to determine posting schedules. Yes, in as much as we want to post every day, but there are times for posting. Like for me, I've realized that most times it's always good if you have a message first hand. If you happen to be the first group of people to lay hold on a certain kind of information, then it's easier for you to attract people to your page. It has happened to us so many times when you just had the information drop immediately and you post it. Man, it usually works. I've also realized that most times in the morning and evening hours too, it works. Yeah, but then for some other people, depending on the kind of content you have, it varies. So it's the duty of the social media manager to determine when is the appropriate time, to make posting. He also determines, the number of posts you have to do in a day. That is one of the duties of social media manager. So if you have a social media manager and he or she is not able to do this, then you can look at him with a second eye and say, okay, are you sure you are capable of your job?
Exactly, and determining the times where you post it. So, such a person has to understudy the various social media platforms to know the peak period for every tool, there are peak periods. There are periods where people are there when they like on the Uber you hear they call surge, where there are lots of people who wants to use this. So there are those kind of moments on all social media networks. And if you check very well, there is this clock a friend of mine shared with me, a 3 hour clock for posting.
Mm.
If you check well around between 6 a.m. people are just waking up and they want to check things that are happening on the social media. So it says if you post at that time, you will get a number of persons.
That's why I said early in the morning
Mhm.
and the early hours of the day and then the late hours, because then people are back home
Yeah,
and they want to pick up one or two things.
yeah, and then
Usually it works very well.
yeah, and then it says 9 o'clock.
Mm.
So many persons are just getting to their office,
Office.
and before they will go on, before they will start anything, they want to quickly check through the internet and do stuff. 12 o'clock is break for some persons, so they want to relax. 3 p.m. is lunchtime, and they want to relax. 6 p.m. people are back home. I'm like, wow.
And talking about schedules too, certain posts are meant for a particular time,
Yeah.
for a particular season to
Yes,
be precise.
exactly.
For example, you remember I was telling you something about Christmas is coming. You do arts that are related to Christmas and all those December timing
Yeah.
thereabout. You won't bring a post that is meant for January or maybe April, May thereabout and post it now. It won't work. So it's part of the job of the social media manager to determine, okay, this day is Children's Day, this day is Democracy Day. We need to do
How
a
do we
post
create something around the
around this.
environment?
You get, so that's just part of what we are talking about here.
Okay, so we move on.
All right, the next thing we want to talk about is that of creating a brand identity. Yes, social media is a prime opportunity for your business to cultivate a unique brand identity and voice. Your brand identity, should reflect the ways you stand out from your competitors and why your customers choose you. Like if you follow us closely, you notice it's a business radio station, and if you watch most of our content, even though we might most times mix it up, because during the weekend we spice up things and to keep it going. But if you notice, like 80% of the content you see, 80% of them are business related. 80% of what you see are business related, or every other ones you see are just to bring it up. And most times those ones you see, somehow they have a touch of business in it, a touch of business. Some time ago, it was this. I'm using for as an instance. Take for a case study, the Ikoyi building collapse. Yes, is if you look at it, it's not business, but if you look at it, it's business on its own. It's business. So that's why I said you have your unique brand identity, but then there is business in it. Some time ago, the president did this, he did that. Look at it, business is involved inside it. So, mere looking at someone going through your page, he knows that, oh, these people understand.
Is what they do.
This is their identity. We have a show on Sunday, Gospel Hour, right?
Yeah.
But it will surprise you that one of the show inside Gospel Hour is Power to Get Wealth. I don't know if you get. So if you look at it, so many things you are doing are all, you just feel that you will see that, hey, they are falling out. Even when you want to do entertainment stuff, you see that entertainment stuff you are doing is still
It's having business
inside it. Entertainment, this thing, what did we, podcast? How do you do, what is podcast? And if you look at podcast now, it's a business of its own. Someone is making money out of it.
Of course.
But we call it entertainment hub. So it's part of the responsibility of the social media manager to determine most of these things and see how it revolves around whatever you are doing. So that's the second point we want to raise there.
All right, he has talked about brand identity. Yes, it's the manager that needs to push the idea behind the company's identity to the public. It's just like this PRO of a place is the one protecting the image of the distance. So the next thing we'll talk about on this issue of things to know or guides to hiring a social media manager is that the social media manager, for those of you who are looking out for to know the roles, we are mentioning them one after the other. He supports promotional strategies. Social media managers have experience with promotional materials. This includes creating and managing social ads, or analyzing organic traffic activity, and working with influencers. They know how to position each of the promotional materials in order for it to get to the crowd or the audience where it is needed. That's the job. These are part of the jobs of a social media manager, to support promotional strategies. If an ad is doing fine and it needs to be sponsored, the social media manager reasons why it should be sponsored, the demography and every other thing, and then he does it. Alright, so you listening to us right here, right now, the social media manager supports also promotional strategies.
All right. The next, apart from promotional strategies, the social media manager is in charge of creating an engagement strategy. If you notice these days, man, it's not, it's not an easy thing, to create engagement online. It's a very difficult thing to do these days, and somehow too, it's also a simple thing to do, especially if you understand the game. It's a game for me. I call it a game because it might start tough, but in the middle of it, it's becoming interesting and things start changing. Just like football, you start a game, it's difficult, but once you get the right key, you see it moving very well, despite how difficult the game might be. You see players coming out to say it was a difficult game, but at the end of the day, we came out victorious. That's also the same thing with social media and creating engagement, because if you have a social media page and there is no engagement, that is where the trouble is. For we here, there is an online radio. We know what it means when you look at. Okay, some time ago, our engagement was down. Yeah. It was red, and we're like, hey,
what do we do?
What do we? You just look at the red and like, there is no joy attached to it. You get, but we know what it took us. I think part of them was, if for those of you that used to follow us, there was a time, for some time we were not frequent as we were. It brought down our engagement and everything. But happily enough, now we are up by more than 100%. Up again. Our engagement. You get. We are just looking at it now. So that tells you how what it means to get engagement online. Just this morning, I was looking at our engagement on our radio app. Man, it was so interesting. I think our peak is our record this month is our peak. Wow, I just saw it, the highest we've seen. Wow. For the past few months we've started this job. The highest is this month, and I was kind of more than happy when I saw it. It's just there and it's still counting, and I'm like, I wish. Although I saw it coming. If I've checked our record for the past 3-4 months, it has just been on the rise. It has just been on the rise. The kind of engagement I saw there has just been on the rise. So when I saw that breakthrough, last month it almost happened, but finally this month I saw it and I was very happy. That tells you engagement is very key in terms of social media. Key. And so if you are hiring a social media manager, you also need to look at that. You need to look at his engagement for you, because that's key. We are telling you this so you know what to look out for. We gave you a story about a young man whose business was crumbling, and he was told to get a social media manager, which he did. But because he has no idea of what is involved, he doesn't know, because yes, he's a social media manager, but you are manager to the social media manager. So you need to have an idea of what is involved in social media, so that if he's not doing his job,
you can know how to
step in. So we are telling you these things so you know. So you try to look. If you have one, you can also look at these things we are talking about. Since look at his engagement. Is he getting the engagement? Because these are part of the key. That is why if a social media manager is being interviewed, part of what they check out for is his own engagement. How many followers do you have online? Yes, you have 3K or 5K or 10K or 30K or even more than that, what's your engagement? That is the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You might have 30k followers on social media, but you are just having like 10 engagements. It doesn't make sense now. It doesn't make sense at all. At least if you have 30k, we are expecting 30% of that. If you're having 1k, we expect at least 30% of that number you have as your engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you get me. If you have, I will repeat it again, if you have up to 1k, if you have up to 1k, we are looking at, okay, fine, you should have up to 30% of the 1k. That shows that you can manage whatever platform that is given to you.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the things you look out for. You get, for those of you that want to hire a manager, I don't know. So look out for these things. I think okay, we have few more to go. Okay, maybe you take one more while I take the last one.
All
Wrap
right.
it up.
The next thing, looking at the roles of a social media manager, is that you develop a conversation plan. Social media is a great place to learn about your business and what works and what doesn't work. It's a place to convert leads into customers, and the social media manager creates a plan specifically designed to convert leads on social media. Okay, you need to converse with the audience that are interacting with you on your social media handles and platforms, and so the social media manager is the one saddled with the responsibility to develop a conversation plan. How do we talk to this person? How do we respond to this thing? How do we respond to this? How do we respond to that? How do we reply to this person? How do we follow up on what this person has said? All of these things are the duties of the social media manager. Ida is going to give us the last response.
Okay, before I talk about the last one, based on the one you just talked about now, if you have followers online, if you have followers that engage and you cannot turn it to customers, that is where the issue is. You can imagine a business platform where you have 30k and none of them can patronize your brand. So what's the essence of following me now? That's the issue. So your social media manager should be able to strategize on how to convert the engagement to potential customers. All right. The last thing we want to talk with is your social media manager must be able to work with the SEOs. When I talk about SEOs, I mean search engine optimization.
Mm-hmm.
Search engine optimization is a content strategy to help your business show up in Google search results. Social media managers, they use this optimized content in posts to increase traffic to your website, boost brand awareness, and generate more leads. Some time ago with some other colleagues of mine, we were actually talking about our own website SEO. You get, we are talking about it and how to make the best use of it. We made a lot of discoveries. We looked at it. We saw things we needed to work on, which actually we've been looking at that corner and see what we can make out of it. So for you that is hiring a social media manager, it's important you look at someone that can relate with search engine optimization, that knows the rudiments of search engine optimization. If you are a social media manager and you don't understand SEO, then I think you are not a good one, because I see these days there is virtually nothing you can do on social media that you don't need search engine optimization.
Sure.
That's just the reality of all of these things. I think we've the much we can pick. We still have more to talk about. Maybe we can.
All right, let's quickly take.
Okay, let me quickly wrap it up. So we just leave. Okay, the other ones we have here is that the social media manager should be able to analyze data in terms of being analytical, knowing some of the tools that he needs to analyze the engagement you are having. Let me give you, for instance, if you go to Facebook, you have your analytical tools there that helps you see your metrics in terms of your engagement, your clicks, your followers, the counts, the traffic. In fact, there are so many of them there. So if you are hiring a social media manager, he should be one that he knows how to go to for Facebook, I think it's called Insights. Insights that shows you the traffic. Even when you run an ad, understand? If you go to Insight, it shows you how well that ad is viewed it, how many clicks, yes, how many minutes, for people that watched up to 30 seconds, for people that watched up to 10 seconds. Like let me give you, for instance, our radio app here, the app we use. If you go to the analytics tool there, if you go there, you are able to track even the location of the person. The location, it tells you how many people in Nigeria listen to us. It tells you how many people in US and stuff. I think sometime ago I showed you something like that.
Exactly.
So it shows you those details, because this is what you use to know how to leverage on all those things you're having. So any person you're hiring should be able to do that, and the last one should be able to create content.
Yeah.
I think they say content is king now. The key,
Yes,
which one?
because yes, it's king. Because whoever is going to visit you is visiting you because of what you have, because of content. If you don't have content, you might lose a lot of persons from your brand. And so a social media manager must be the one who can create content. And creating the content is the right content, creating the content for the brand. If you are a brand that deals with children materials and you are writing big poems that even primary 6 kids cannot read, it doesn't show that the person understands what they're doing. So, and if you are into women fashion, your content should be around that side. So a social media manager is the one who knows how to create content for the brand, not for themselves, because whatever you are doing now as a manager is not an individual stuff, is for the corporate body that you represent as a social media manager. Okay?
I think everything we've talked about today is very important. But you see, creating content, man. You see, creating content is
very key.
It's
very key.
The photos, the videos, the blog posts, the captions, the hashtags. Whoa! See, sometimes you look at these. I have friends of mine who are managing social medias for people. There is money for those of you listening to us, and you are thinking of, especially the young ones, and you are looking for something. See, it pays. Oh, there is money in managing people. There are most of these celebrities. You think they are the ones posting all those things you are seeing online? No, there are people that manage it for them. Let's just say, for those of you that I'm just saying, for those that are not aware. So if you are good at, see, this is real business of his own. I have colleagues that are living fine with this, seriously, and I've been at least tapping one or two knowledge from them, learning, and the likes of Tunde not them. They are millionaires now. This is what they are. What again are they doing? Is it not a blog? It's blogging.
To create content is not an easy
thing. It's not an easy thing now.
And they pay heavily for it.
It's not an easy thing.
Well, this is where we'll wrap it up for the online business segment, and the topic we're discussing today. The topic we discussed.
We are talking about guys
hiring a social media manager, and we've given you a lot of things. We've told you who a social media manager is, and we also have given you the rules that you need to know about a social media manager. Coming up next after now is the BSR Office Talk. We'll be back for BSR Office Talk, and when we come back, the topic we'll be looking at for BSR Office Talk is questions you should never ask your co-workers, even if they are your friends. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Timosinachi, myself, and Eze for BSR Office Talk. It's still Broad Street Radio, your #1 business radio. We'll be right back.